Good morning, everybody. If we can all get in our seats, please. We're about to get started. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Wow, is everybody sleeping? Because everybody knows I'm not going to start without that, right? Everybody knows that, right? The mine is. All right, Kyle, we ready? All right. Good morning. I will remind all the members that today's hearing is being live streamed and recorded. I would like to welcome everyone to the second of several informational meetings to discuss how we can move Pennsylvania forward by investing in roads, bridges, and transit. Over the next several weeks, we'll be hearing directly from urban, suburban, and rural communities across the state so that voices can be heard and so that we as lawmakers know how to move forward. Members will be coming in and out as their schedule allows. I would ask that all members present at this time, please introduce yourselves. I'll start with Chairman Benninghoff, who this is his neck of the woods, and unlike him, I wore a red tie like he told me to wear after the last meeting, and you did a gold again. You told me to wear a red tie.
Welcome to Central Pennsylvania Institution of Technology. We're glad you were able to bring the committee here. It is important for us to do these fact-finding missions regardless of what ties one may wear. But the important thing is that we have them on. We have people from different industries. We have one of our transit authorities here and our chamber, and we're interested to see what their thoughts are. As you know, this is an ongoing issue across the Commonwealth and will continue to be. It's a beauty of our wonderful state with our many valleys and hills and bridges. It makes construction a little bit more difficult, more challenging. And sometimes even the weather has an impact on that. But we'll continue to maintain things because at the end of the day, my colleagues and I and the Secretary, our goal obviously is to have safe transportation and one that's effective and not a lot of congestion. So with that, Gary Benninghoff, Central Pennsylvania, and welcome to the 171st District.
Perry Stanball, 86th District, all of Perry and most of Juniata counties.
Brian Smith, State Representative from Jefferson and Indiana County, District 66. Thank you all for being here.
Hi, I'm Perry Warren from the 31st District in Bucks County, the communities of Lower Makefield Township, Newtown Borough, Newtown Township, Upper Makefield Township, and Yardley.
Good morning, everyone. State Representative Paul Takak from the 82nd District, just down the road. I want to thank the chairman for inviting me to attend today.
Thank you. So for the last decade, people across the country have been demanding fuel efficiency and alternative fuel-powered vehicles to encourage everyone to be good stewards of our environment, rightfully so. But with all good things, there are some unforeseen consequences that need to be addressed. Better gas mileage in vehicles leads to less revenue and fuel taxes. Every state in the nation has seen a decline in revenue generated from fuel taxes that we pay at the pump. This is a major source of funds for the maintenance of our roads, bridges, and is one of the issues we will be discussing as we cross the Commonwealth. We face significant challenges. Pennsylvania has more roads and bridges than New York, New Jersey, and all New England states combined. We have roads that we must police, plow, and pave that have little or no traffic on them. Currently, PennDOT is facing an annual budget shortfall of $9.4 billion. This does not include local roads and bridges that are maintained by local governments, which need relief as well. Many think when we talk about transportation, we're just talking about roads and bridges. But as chairman of the committee and every member on the committee can assure you this is not the case. This series of meetings will focus on all aspects of transportation. We'll be discussing the proper funding for our infrastructure, workforce, public transit, airports, and of course, roads and bridges. All these areas have great impact on the economy of Pennsylvania. For example, public transportation system across all 67 counties employs more than 39,000 people and generates $5.4 billion annually. Now, I can go on forever and ever, and we have a special guest that is testifying at all our hearings. And for our first panel, I would like to introduce Secretary Carroll, the Secretary of Transportation of Pennsylvania. And I thank you again for coming, Mr. Secretary. And please, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Nielsen. Chairman Benninghoff, thank you for the invitation to come to Center County. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. I'll introduce the folks that are here to support me and make sure that I stay true and accurate with my answers. Danielle Spila, Director of the Bureau of Public Transit for PennDOT, and Tom Prestash, the District Executive here in District 2, which is a sprawling district for PennDOT that extends from the Susquehanna River to the New York State line, and Representative Marty Kauser's area up in McKean County. So I'm thankful for their good work in the Bureau of Public Transit and here in District 2. Thank you to the members that took the time to be here today. And I think maybe I'll start this hearing by asking myself a question, which is, what brings us to Center County today? And the answer to that question is unfinished business. We have unfinished business as a result of the partial solution for the problem before us, which is transit funding and funding for road and bridges across our state, including local roads and bridges that are in need of repair. The governor, in his presentation in February, highlighted the need for additional transit funding for the first time in 10 years. And a careful analysis of the transit needs across the state brought the governor to a request for $280 million additional transit funds that would be secured by a carve-out of 1.75% of the state sales tax revenue. By doing so, no additional tax or fee would be imposed on folks for that transit funding. And it's common knowledge, I think it's fair to say, that when you consider the needs of transit across the state, SEPTA is in the most precarious position and in the need of the funds sooner. But every single transit agency, including here in Center County, is in need of additional funds, maybe not for the same immediacy that SEPTA has, but CATA and all the others will have do have tremendous financial needs, and they will exhibit in the very near future. I can tell you that when it comes to the importance of SEPTA, it shouldn't be lost on anybody that the economy of Pennsylvania is driven in a large way by 5 counties served by SEPTA: Bucks, Montgomery, Delaware, Chester, and Philadelphia. Those 5 counties drive the state's economy in very important ways. As a former House member, I've represented rural counties, and their economy is important. But when it comes to the economic health of Pennsylvania, the performance of those 5 counties matters greatly. And so I would highlight the fact that, a SEPTA crisis when it comes to route reductions or route eliminations would have a detrimental effect on Susquehanna County, on Mifflin County, on Crawford County. And so I think it's imperative that we move forward. I'm thankful, as the governor is, for the partial solution, which was included in this year's budget, $80 million for transit and an additional $80 million for local roads and bridges. And I'm thankful for the members of the House and Senate that voted for that. But of course, the simple math tells us that we have a delta of $200 million when it comes to transit. And the additional money for roads and bridges that could flow, especially to local governments, as part of a package would be important and necessary. I took the time to take a look at the local needs in the counties nearby. We have in the fleet of bridges that are owned by townships and boroughs or counties. Here in Center County, we have 8 bridges that are posted that are local bridges and 1 that is closed. In Clearfield County, we have 18 bridges that are posted, local bridges, and 5 that are closed, Clearfield County. Mifflin, 7 local bridges posted, 2 that are closed. Perry County, 16 local bridges posted, 1 that's closed. And the totality for every community and county across the state, roughly 1,300 bridges posted and 200 bridges closed, local bridges. PennDOT has its own challenges when it comes to our bridge inventory. I will not recite the numbers. Suffice to say that we have plenty of bridges that are posted and closed in our universe as well. And as the chairman noted, the network that we have in PennDOT's universe is quite expansive. So the need is obvious as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the transit needs that haven't been enhanced in 10 years and the need for enhanced bridge and roadway funding, whether it's for local or for PennDOT. My preference would be for both. I'm thankful to this group for the second decoupling of state police dollars as a result of the budget deal. This group knows that $125 million was decoupled this year. That was the second installment. Prior year, 125 was decoupled. We still have $250 million of PennDOT's motor license fund dollars that flow to the state police. And I'm hopeful that the General Assembly, with your good leadership, will continue to fund the state police out of the general fund where it should have been all along. As a former member of this chamber, of this body, and this committee, I voted for that stuff because it was the best possible arrangement that we could have. But the truth of the matter is PennDOT's motor license fund money should go to roads and bridges, and the state police should be funded out of the general fund. And I know that the governor supports fully, as do most members of this committee, I would suspect all, that the state police be fully funded and that those funds flow from the general fund. So I'm hopeful that next June we have the third decoupling and that would really make a huge difference. For some context, when we siphon off $500 million for the state police out of the motor license fund, that's 8 cents a gallon, 8 cents right off the top to the state police. Members of this committee are aware that we siphon off about 8 cents a gallon for a liquid fuel allocation to every community in this state. Now we're at 16 cents a gallon off. We have a penny or two that goes to the Turnpike and the Department of Agriculture for odds and ends. So, it's pretty common refrain to hear PennDOT in Pennsylvania, highest gas tax in the nation behind Illinois and California. That's true, but we have an effective gas tax rate that's middle of the pack. When you do the subtraction of 8 cents for local governments, 8 cents for the state police, penny or two Turnpike and Department of Ag, we're in the neighborhood of 40 cents a gallon. And by the way, we have half-mile dead-end roads in nearly every county of this state that are state highways. The assignment for PennDOT is difficult. We're not complaining. I am not complaining. But I just highlight the fact that we are expected to deliver a transportation network of 44,000 miles of roadway for PennDOT, 25,000 bridges, with a network, as the chairman mentioned, greater than the states of New York, New Jersey, and all of the New England states combined. We have to do that with a gas tax that's middle of the pack, and the fees on the motor vehicle and driver license side for Pennsylvania are modest compared to most other states. So that's the lay of the land when it comes to PennDOT. Not to pile on too much, the chairman mentioned electric vehicles and hybrid electric. I'm thankful for the bill that was passed and signed this year that sets in motion an enhanced registration fee for those vehicles so that they participate in the maintenance and repair of our road and bridge network. And so I'm thankful for that effort. But it is cautionary. The motor fuel tax revenue for this Commonwealth has started a decline that I don't know that we will see any return to the numbers that existed prior to COVID. The proliferation of electric vehicles and fuel-efficient internal combustion vehicles is real. As charging stations are built out across this state and this nation as a result of the federal bill, the hesitancy that some folks have with respect to the purchase of an electric vehicle or hybrid electric vehicle will wane, and their numbers in our fleet will increase. So it's incumbent upon Pennsylvania, and I'm thankful again for the bill that was passed, to contemplate the challenges that are on the horizon for us when it comes to our motor license fund. And so we have a lot to do. And so and I know the schedule for the House and Senate in the remaining months of this legislative calendar are few, but I'm hopeful that we can have a productive conversation that will address the real significant transit needs that we have before us, as well as the road and bridge needs that we have both in PennDOT's universe and in the universe of county and municipal government. The need is real. I mentioned yesterday in northeastern Pennsylvania, we do not have red and blue bridges in this state. We do not. We have bridges, and they may be owned by the county of Mifflin. They may be owned by the borough of Bellefonte, or they may be PennDOT's. But the person that drives across that bridge cares not whose bridge it is. They just want to make sure that it's safe and efficient to be able to get traffic across. And so I look forward to working with the members here in the House as well as the Senate to continue the conversation that was started and partially completed in June. I'll end by saying, when it comes to PennDOT projects, you'll hear from others on panels behind me. We have wonderful partners. We have wonderful consultant partners. We have wonderful contractors. We have hardworking folks that wear hard hats and vests that deliver projects in coordination in addition to the work that's done by PennDOT forces across this state. I had a chance to visit the Center County Maintenance Office this morning, and it's been my experience that the folks that work in the county maintenance offices, no matter what county it is, generally are residents of the county where they work, and they do their level best on behalf of the residents of their region. I'm proud of their work. It's hard work, but they do it well. And we have great leadership here in District 2 with Tom and his team. And so if provided the additional funds on the road and bridge side or on the transit side, you can rest assured they will be well used and that the 13 million residents of this state will be the beneficiaries. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and I won't belabor all what you said. You talked about Act 89. That was 2013. You and I both, most people up here that were at the House at that time, we all voted. It was a big bipartisan bill, but that only took care of roads and bridges. When was the last time we actually did something, if you can recall,
Yeah,
for transit, public transit, right? Because we're seeing the shortfall of public transit. I'm from Philadelphia. And before I do that, before you answer, I got to say we were joined by one of my other colleagues out of Philadelphia, Representative Bellman, and also Representative Struzzi from Indiana County has joined us. But when was the last time we actually did something for like public transit?
So transit was included in Act 89, which is pretty common for Pennsylvania. When a transportation funding bill runs, whether it's what was Act 44 back in the Rendell era, Act 89 in Corbett era, it is almost always the case, it was the case in those two instances, where transit and motor license fund highway and bridge projects were the beneficiaries of additional funds. So it's a fact that Act 89 included a transit component at the same time that we did additional money for roads and bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The you mentioned about state police. Now, state police is not coming out of motor license fund, but they've lost no money. I just want to make sure that the public knows that they not only did they not lose money, they actually got additional dollars during Governor Shapiro's budget this year.
Yes, the budget that passed in June reduced PennDOT's motor license fund transfer down to $250 million. So $250 million this year will flow from PennDOT's motor license fund to the state police, with the hope that next year we can reduce that by $125 million, and then hopefully in year 4 the final $125. At our high water mark, PennDOT was shifting north of $800 million a year to the Pennsylvania State Police, 13 cents a gallon. I'm thankful for the reduction that began before the Shapiro administration and has been accelerated as a result of good work by the House and Senate with regard to the decoupling.
Are there any numbers that show that how much we invest into this, into our roads and infrastructure, on the benefit to Pennsylvanians? Like, is there like a guesstimate that if every dollar we invest, this is what Pennsylvanians get back?
That's probably too much math for my. I didn't know there was going to be that kind of math in this test.
You know, I threw it at you. I figured.
I would say this. I can focus on the state police money for a moment since we're on that. The decoupling of the $250 million. The first thing that I decided to do was to enhance PennDOT's fleet. We dedicated $25 million in the first year, and then an additional 25, which makes 50 in the second year, to improve the fleet for the entire Commonwealth. So we had some tired iron, as I described it, at some of our county maintenance offices. That was a result of the financial damage that was done to PennDOT's motor license fund with the COVID. And so the first thing we did with the decoupling of the money was to enhance our fleet. That's underway. Every county in our Commonwealth over the next few years will see tired iron cycled out and new equipment put into service. Beyond that, we were able to direct the balance of the funds to maintenance and construction projects across the state in every region. I will concede that in a program of $3 billion for road and bridge projects, $250 million is not a game changer, but it will make a difference. And as we continue down the path of decoupling the balance of the funds, it will make a bigger difference. So steps in the right direction. And again, the beauty of the decoupling, it doesn't require a single penny from any resident of the Commonwealth for these additional dollars to be put into the highway and bridge network.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Chairman Benninghoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If I could, we've been joined by Representative McAndrew from Allegheny County. For the record, I'm sorry.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for coming back to Senator County. I know you've been here on multiple occasions, and we do appreciate that good working condition when you held my current position. Doesn't mean I'll be holding yours in the future, but it's always good to be
Never say
inspired.
never.
That's right. Kudos out to Diane and Tom as well. There's a good working relationship, and that's important for those of us who are trying to represent our public, to have people on the local level that we can call on with different issues. They're very responsive, whether it's as simple as deer removal or potholes or something that may happen. I had a specific question on two lines. Number one, with the reduction in state police, we've thrown a lot of numbers around here, so if the average person listening to this, it's probably, if we've done anything, we've probably confused them. But frankly, we were to the point where we were almost siphoning off $800 million of money that historically would have went to roads and bridges, and it went to help fund the state police. As the chairman said, we've redone that and now fund it directly from the state, the general budget. The question is, that money, even though it's been back into PennDOT, is only for road and bridges versus transit.
Correct.
Okay.
So, and again, for more context, not to do too much more math, but the totality of the dollars that flowed from the motor license fund to the state police is measured in the billions.
Right.
And we have projects across this state that should have been done by now that have not because of that decision. Again, I understand the reasons for that decision, but the impact that it had on our road and bridge network is significant.
I appreciate that. I think one of the things, again, I'm speaking somewhat to those who may be watching this on streaming, is they forget, because you build a bridge, you're not done forever. You know, everything has its lifespan. Everything takes wear and tear. I somewhat joke about the fact we're kind of in a frost belt through here, but, you know, in usual winters, we do have the thawing and freezing issue. And so, like your own home, there is maintenance needs and costs with that. And people sometimes, I think they forget that we build a bridge, it's not there forever. And the age of Pennsylvania's bridge, roughly 24,000 structures, a lot of them, we hope to get, 50, 60 years at them. A lot of them are about 60% of that lifespan, I believe. I heard your numbers correctly. So I think it's important to put that in context. One thing you said, and this is a struggle, I think, at the end of the day, when we have to lay the votes down for any of these enhancements, while we may not have red or blue bridges, I think there is a conundrum of rural versus urban. And so some of our members are less likely to think that they're voting or wanting to vote for something they see as an urban problem. Center County being somewhat unique because we have a little bit larger transit system here. I know you talk about having transit system in multiple areas, but I'm not sure all of our members see that or appreciate that. So I do think it makes trying to do these hearings is helpful to educate why this is a problem statewide and not just in the urban areas.
Thank you for that. And it is important to note that we have transit in every county in this state, every county. It may not be a fixed route service, but we have shared ride services that are critically important to rural folks in every county, including the smallest counties in the state by population, Cameron County, Forest County, Sullivan County. There is transit there. And the folks that rely on it have very few options other than that shared ride vehicle that shows up to take them to the doc's office, to the store, or wherever they need to go. And so shared ride, Chair, you're correct, is a very critically important transit component in every county.
And lastly, considering Ed and I are probably the only more senior members on this committee, as a reference, is Pennsylvania's dedicated fund of liquid fuels dollars relatively unique to our state, and the fact that those funds are dedicated? And are there other states that you think have a system that we might want to consider? Because we're obviously looking at a global problem that didn't just happen overnight. As you said, efficiency gets better, modes of transportation change. This problem's not going to go away whether we threw $2 billion at it right now.
So the motor license fund is constitutionally protected in Pennsylvania, which
Correct.
I think is unique.
It is unique to Pennsylvania.
Right. So,
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
what that means, of course, is that the Constitution prescribes that liquid fuel, motor fuel tax revenue is to be used for road and bridge purposes only. And the state police carve-out was an exception, I think, because of the fact that they enforced Title 75.
Right.
But none of the motor license fund dollars flow to transit. And so that's normally why we end up with this sort of hold hands and jump situation with Act 44 and Act 89, where lots of rural folks are, despite the fact that we have transit in those counties, are more concerned about roads and bridges. People in southeastern Pennsylvania rightly are concerned about the importance of transit. And the usual calculus in Harrisburg is that we solve both problems at the same time, which essentially is what happened as part of the budget in June. $80 million for transit, $80 million for local roads and bridges.
And lastly on that, if my history is correct, we have relatively low registration fees compared to other states. I guess the thought process was keep the registration fee low, the average person can get a car, they can afford to put it on the road, and then you as a motorist have a little bit more control about how much money you spend in using liquid fuels. Consumption tax is original ideology, and that's kind of the conundrum we were in recently when we were trying to debate on the EV fees. Is that history somewhat correct?
Absolutely. We have among the lowest registration fees in the nation. Our driver license fees equally low. There are states not far from here that calculate vehicle registration fees based on the value of the vehicle, similar to a property tax situation. And so, you know, the fee that the average motorist pays for their driver license or vehicle registration is quite modest. You know, it's not lost on me that some folks have financial challenges, and coming up with the $45 for an annual registration fee can be a challenge sometimes. But by a comparison to other states, our registration and driver license fees very, very modest.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Struzzi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Secretary.
Jim, before you start, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have Representative Abney who joined us from Allegheny County. And I think I got everybody. We got a full house. We're doing good. Thank you all. Thanks, Jim.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just thinking long term, and we've been discussing transit funding and transportation funding for a very long time now. We mentioned the acts that were put into place to, provide that funding that was needed decades ago, and we continue to revisit this. The governor's proposal to shift the sales and use tax, it was 1.7%, I believe, to transit. Do you see that as a long-term fix so that we don't have to continuously revisit transit funding?
I guess it all depends on what your definition of long-term is. It seems to me that if you looked at the sequence of adjustments that were made, at least in my tenure, it's sort of a 10 or 12-year solution. There are intervening things that happen, and the huge intervening thing that happened since Act 89 was the COVID experience and the collapse of ridership for transit agencies and the effect that had on budgets. Now, the federal government, with the three iterations of funding to support the economy of the United States, was quite helpful when it came to making sure transit agencies and the workers that were there continued to be able to function and get paid. But it'd be difficult to imagine a revisiting of transit funding in the short term. So my definition of short term, I'm not sure if it aligns with your definition, but history says probably 10, 12-year solution if I had to guess. But I wouldn't be married to that. the future is really, Representative Stambo and I were talking about it earlier. 25 years ago, no one would envision carrying around a calculator, a video camera, a telephone, and a computer in your pocket. No one would contemplate such a scenario. That's the world we live in. So what happens in the world of vehicles, whether we have, vertically elevated transit vehicles of some sort, whether we have autonomous vehicles that are on the horizon, we have autonomous trucks that are on the horizon. So what the future looks like, hard to predict. But I know this, we haven't added transit funding for over 10 years, and the time has come. And if we want to test what happens if we let transit decline in terms of routes and service, what I know will happen is the economy of Pennsylvania will decline.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. A last question for the public, and just to put on the record, you mentioned a whole lot of stuff about posted versus closed, posted and closed roads. Can you explain to us, and for some of the members that are here with us today that aren't part of the committee, so they don't know the difference between posted and closed?
So bridges are expected to carry 80,000 pounds. That is the legal weight for a vehicle in our network and across the United States for the most part, with very few exceptions. When a bridge is not capable of carrying 80,000 pounds, it's posted to a weight that it is safely able to carry. And so the average motorist would have seen a bridge posted at 10 tons, 20 tons, 5 tons. That just means that the bridge cannot carry an 80,000 pound or 73,000 pound triaxle. And when bridges get to the point where they're unsafe, they get closed. And so we have in our inventory, as do county and municipal governments, posted and closed bridges. They result, when a bridge is closed, the detours can be quite lengthy, especially in rural Pennsylvania. If we or a county closes a bridge in the city of Philadelphia, the options to get around that are many. If we post or close a bridge in McKean County, the detour could be measured in miles and miles, 10, 20 miles, not out of the ordinary. So the effect of posted and closed bridges in rural Pennsylvania, more exaggerated and more harmful than a bridge that gets posted in State College or in the city of Scranton.
And in fact, when we first became chairs, as you know, and you became secretary, with the first tour we did was up in northeastern PA, whereas the road was closed and the people had to go to the state of New Jersey and back into Pennsylvania just to go to their supermarket to get around these closures because of different reasons, different reasons. But that happens. That does happen. And unless you live on something like that, you don't see that. In the city of Philadelphia, we were, when I-95 with your job and the governor's job, the job that PennDOT employees and all your engineers and all the contractors did. I mean, it was a stand-up job to get that done. It's nationwide. Everybody's still talking about the job that you did as the leader of PennDOT and the governor did, and all the construction workers that put that together, and the hundreds of thousands of cars that go over that bridge I live right there, so I know it well. I know it well.
I know this, and I'm proud of the work that was done on Cottman Ave in Northeast Philly by PennDOT and our contractors and our consultants. If that event had occurred in Center County on I-80, the result would have been equally good. I'm positive of that. The contractors and consultants that we have in central Pennsylvania take a second position to no one, and we would have opened I-80 if it had happened with the same speed that we did on 95 in Philadelphia. And I believe that to be the case in every county in this state.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for coming today. I'd like to call our next panel so we can talk about the actual transportation system right here in Center County.
Okay, thanks.
I'd like to call up David Rochelle, Executive Director and CEO of Center Area Transportation Authority, and Greg Scott, President and CEO, Chamber of Business and Industry right here in Center County. If you please can come up to the table. Director Rochelle, if we can start with you. We'll get both your testimony, and then after we get both of your testimonies, we'll open it up for the members for any questions they may have. It's important to pull the microphone close and make sure the green button's on.
Turning it on does help, I'm sure. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today about public transportation here in the Center Region and throughout the Commonwealth. We very much appreciate the committee's willingness to travel to our area to learn about our needs firsthand. My name is Dave Rischel, and I'm the Executive Director and CEO of the Center Area Transportation Authority, locally known as CATA. For those of you unfamiliar with CATA, we were created in 1974 in State College and are enjoying our 50th anniversary this year. We serve 5 municipalities here in Center County, the Borough of State College, and the townships of College, Patton, Ferguson, and Harris. We also operate some transit services under contract to Bellefonte Borough and Benner Township, close to this area. And some more about those services in a few minutes. By the way, I want to mention that at the conclusion of the hearing, we have a restored transit coach, one of our original General Motors coaches when CATA was founded, that will be outside. If you'd like to walk through and pose for a photo, we'd be happy to show it to you. It'll be parked outside after the hearing. Sure. CATA operates 5 modes of service: fixed route, microtransit, paratransit, and shared ride, commuter vans, and a new on-demand general public service in this area. In a moment, I'll tell you a little bit more about CATA's services, but first I'd like to highlight some of CATA's broader benefits to the region beyond public transit. CATA provides more than 200 jobs to people here and in the surrounding area. CATA's purchases of equipment and material have infused the local and regional economy with more than $5 million in spending just in this past year. Based on EPA data, CATA's services remove more than 13,000 cars from the road in the Center Region every day. This eliminates more than 250,000 tons of CO2 and other greenhouse gases from the air every month, even accounting for emissions from our CNG-powered transit fleet. With tens of thousands of fewer cars on the road each week, roads and highways in the area are less congested and have not required the hundreds of millions of dollars that they would have required to be expanded. These are just some of the indirect benefits. Though now we dispatch fewer than 40 buses each morning, we dispatched more than that prior to COVID. We deliver a massive amount of service to this region. Last year we provided almost 5 million fixed route trips and another 100,000 microtransit and paratransit rides, making us the 3rd highest ridership single location transit system in Pennsylvania. Though our service is down from the 6 million plus trips we provided before COVID, passengers are coming back and our ridership has increased 4.4% over the past year. Our local population density and years of refinement have enabled us to operate as one of the most efficient transit systems in the country and the most efficient in Pennsylvania by a number of measures. According to PennDOT, we transport more passengers per hour, collect more revenue per hour, and have the lowest operating cost per passenger of any transit system in the Commonwealth. Yet even as efficient as we are, we can't afford expenses that are going to be facing us in the coming years. And we have no extra monies to expand services to areas unserved currently by transit. A few examples of the financial challenges that we're facing. We're about to begin negotiations with our represented bus operators and maintenance employees, and we're anticipating a significant wage increase that is currently beyond our budget. Ongoing driver shortages, partly resulting from our current wage offering, have limited the amount of fixed route service we can provide. This week, Penn State students return to class, and every morning we're leaving dozens of passengers stranded that we cannot pick up because we cannot put more service on the street. Demand for our shared ride program also continues to expand beyond current funding levels. Last year, we had a funding shortfall of more than $500,000, which had to be locally subsidized. CATA has been a leader in the state experimenting with new concepts like microtransit. Last year, we provided almost 90,000 microtransit trips, reaching areas that were beyond our fixed route network, but we lack funds to further expand those new services beyond what we have today. As more and more of our IT systems and services move from our server-based applications to the cloud, expenses we used to be able to cover by capital funds now must be paid with operating dollars, which, again, we don't have. Over the past year, we've had an explosion of cyber attacks that have required higher and higher levels of protection. It has truly been amazing, the amount of cyber attacks we've had to fend off on a daily basis. Managing this has taken up so much staff time that we must hire a cybersecurity firm to protect our operations, again, using operating dollars that we don't currently have. Our fare box and fare collection system is more than 20 years old and must be replaced. All the options available are like our IT support services, requiring annual subscription and per transaction costs, which again must be paid with operating funds that we don't currently have. These are just a few examples, but the list of looming new expenses is long. A reasonable question you might be thinking is, well, CATA, what are you doing to better manage your finances? We take our fiscal responsibility very seriously and have a number of unique and aggressive programs to generate revenue. We've developed an apartment pass program whereby apartment complexes offer transit passes free to their residents, which the residents purchase from CATA. This program brings in millions of dollars of additional revenue, and we've been able to increase our fees for this program 20% over the past 2 years. We work closely with Penn State to operate 3 routes that serve the campus and the community, with the university subsidizing these routes so that we can operate open door to quickly board tens of thousands of daily passengers without having to swipe fare cards. This arrangement speeds our service, offers convenience to passengers, subsidizes our operating costs, and enables Penn State to save a little bit on their transportation costs. We've capitalized on the lucrative student market here in the center region by selling advertising space on our buses, earning us hundreds of thousands of revenue every year. And we are discussing the need for fare increases in the near future. Although so much of our service is now paid for through contracted passes, that a fare increase will actually have a fairly limited impact on our revenue. Fewer than 10% of our passengers now pay cash fares at the door. All of this has helped.
That does not mean you're dismissed. Keep going.
All right, I'll keep going. I'm almost
We are in a
finished.
school, just so everybody watching us live knows. We are in a school here.
All of this has helped as a result of these revenue-generating efforts. We cover more of our operating costs than any other transit system in the Commonwealth. And we have the lowest operating subsidy per trip of any system in the state. Yet even with this performance, we still struggle financially. Earlier in my remarks, I mentioned CATA's contracted services in this area locally. Though the borough of Bellefonte and Benner Township are outside of our legal service area, we've long provided services to this area under contract to these municipalities. Unfortunately, these municipalities have been unable to adequately subsidize these contracted services, and we've been operating at a substantial deficit year after year. Over the last year, facing a $1.8 million deficit at CATA, we had to have some difficult conversations about increased local funding for transit and have had to significantly cut our services to our contracted municipalities in this area. This is one of the most difficult things I've had to do in my 35 years of transit. Our mission is to provide service, not cut it back. Unfortunately, we may very well have to end all contracted services in the Bellefonte and Benner Township area next July if we can't find a solution to this problem. We know there are people here who have relied on CATA services for years and now have lost a good portion of their mobility, which we would like to rectify. We've also been approached by other communities with interest in transit services connected to the center region. People from Altoona, Lewistown, Phillipsburg, Pleasant Gap, and other towns would like to access State College area, but with no extra funds with which to experiment with these services, even if we could find bus operators, we can't afford to provide them. The thought I'd like to leave you with today is this. By federal, state, and state measures, CATA is the most cost-effective transit system in Pennsylvania. We provide a lot of high-quality service, and we do it in the most economical way possible. Yet even we have grave concerns about our financial future. We have quantifiable real expenses before us that we struggle to pay, and we know that there are thousands of additional rides we could be providing if we could hire drivers and we had the funds to expand. If CATA is facing these challenges, you can be sure that our colleagues throughout the state who don't enjoy the town built for transit that we have here are facing even more serious challenges. All of transit in Pennsylvania needs your help, and I thank you sincerely for coming here to listen to our needs. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, good morning.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for coming.
Chairman
This
Nelson.
is 2
Good
days
to see
in
you
a row.
again.
we
2
have.
days in a row. Where are we
Yes.
going tomorrow?
I'll let you know when we leave. We're going to Harrisburg. We're going to
Going
do
to
another one in
Harrisburg, okay.
Harrisburg. You're more than welcome to come and join us.
Chairman Benninghoff, thank you again for the invitation to be here today. Welcome to Center County, and it's great to have you here. Great to have this hearing here. So, I'm Greg Scott. I'm the president and CEO of the Chamber for Center County. We are also the economic development organization for the county as well. So, I think what I'd like to start with is, the importance of transit in economic development, and whether it's automobiles, the transit system, and kudos to David and his team for the tremendous job they do here with CATA. It's a great colleague and great work that they do. Also, air and rail are key elements of our economic development here in Center County. So, one of the things that I need to do is just acknowledge the support from the state that we've had throughout the years that have driven economic development here in Center County. Projects like the I-99 Interstate 80 high-speed interchange is going to drive economic development tremendously. It already is. I think about projects like the Top Trees Waddle Road exit, where that was expanded. That area continues to develop and provide economic prosperity to our region, and that was 5-10 years ago that project went in, but it continues to unfold in front of us. In fact, Carrie and I were at a ribbon cutting ceremony for a new hospital facility, Mount Nittany Health Hospital facility, off of that exit. So, and that's just going to continue to develop. And we can't think, the front and center to us is the Route 322 expansion. That's kind of the missing link between Mifflin County and Center County. Dangerous road, but also a road that's well traveled. We actually have, we import labor into Center County every day from 16 different counties. So for us to continue to grow that transit system and be able to efficiently get labor into our county and back home at night is absolutely critical. The I-99 corridor down to Blair County and Bedford County was critical 10-15 years ago to bring folks in from that region. So we're going to continue to see these opportunities expand, and I'm just, as a community, we're grateful for that investment that's been made. The other thing to say about labor is we enjoy one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state, which means we don't have a lot of bench strength. So that criticality of going out further to bring in the work, as we do to look to expand and grow our community, is absolutely critical. So what are we doing? What are we doing locally? How are we thinking about economic development? So, like the state, our community took on about a year ago the task of putting together an economic development strategic plan to really focus our community on what the vision is for our growth over the next 5 years. And we're almost at the end of that journey, and we'll be publishing and revealing our economic development strategy in about a month. But what I wanted to say about that is there's a couple elements of that relate to transportation. We are looking for opportunities to develop sites, and we've narrowed it down to a few opportunities. I'll talk about one more specifically. But the opportunity to develop in those areas and think about the transportation that happens on a sort of a macro scale rather than a limited project by project scale is absolutely critical. And I know the Secretary's been been to town and has met with Representative Benninghoff and Representative Takak on those potential opportunities, and the ability to work together and think big picture and strategize is absolutely critical to our development and future work going forward. So I applaud that. I look forward to continuing to do that, because I think if we're going to do this right, which we have every intent to, we need to continue to work together and think long term, not short term. Yes, it's great to get a project underway, but if there is a long-term strategy, we want to be looking for solutions like that, and we want to partner with the state to do that. So I mentioned one that I want to talk a little bit more specifically about, and that is we believe a development area that we are going to focus on in and around our airport, the State College Regional Airport. As you know, around a lot of airports, there is a lot of industrial development, and there's an opportunity we have to push on that here. We've got local municipality support to push forward in that direction. But there's a couple key elements to that. One is the cost to develop, and we look at potentially the PA Sites program as an opportunity that we can leverage and move forward in this area. Our airport serves 150,000 employments each year. Coming out of there, it's just getting close to pre-COVID numbers. Just last week, there was an announcement there'll be 3 more flights added in and out of State College. We're up to 11 a day. We'd like to see that grow, and in fact, we're going to be having a meeting later today with the potential for potential expansion on further. So we're looking at opportunities to do that. So air is a critical component to our transportation needs in and around State College. And for a project that we see has been on the books, has been talked about for 20 years, is an airport connector road, which would unlock our airport area. If you've been to our State College Regional Airport, you've got to take back roads to get there. And if you're coming to Penn State, it's still a 10, 15-minute drive from our airport on small roads. If we're thinking about transit to the airport with trucks and development, that road just can't handle that amount of volume. So there was always a plan for a connector road from Innovation Park, right off of I-99, directly to the airport. It's about 1 mile. We see that road as an opportunity to unlock development in that area. So we're going to continue to push on that. We're going to continue to need the support of the state to move that project forward. There's a number of components to it, even though it's only 1 mile. Any new road, has hurdles that we would have to cross and go through. But we see that as a tremendous opportunity to think about that. And then the one other one that I'll mention, many of you may know, we're going to have a casino in State College soon, or in College Township, actually. And with that casino will be development that happens in and around it. There will be supporting development that happens. The Shiloh Road exit off of I-99 takes you directly to that area where that will be. There's development opportunities all the way from I-99 into where the casino is. There's development plans underway. Again, thinking strategically about how that can be built and aligned is going to be critically important. So that's another project in Center County to keep on your radar. With that, I want to thank you for being here again. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but again, appreciate the support, and Representative Benninghoff, thank you for the invitation to be here.
Thank you, gentlemen. So, Greg, you pointed out something that we are actually going to really hit tomorrow, because on the airport piece. The airport piece is an important piece of transit that no one thinks about. We all think the common Pennsylvanian thinks about roads and bridges, potholes, because that's what we all go over. But the airport piece is a huge piece. So we're going to be listening to testimony tomorrow from the Pennsylvania Transit Authority, who does all the airports, and they're going to talk about these small airports. Because I come from Philadelphia, and I have a small airport just like you have here at State College, and they're always asking for investment, and unfortunately the state is not investing what they should. So just so you know, for the record, we will be addressing this as part of this package. Most of us, I don't want to speak for Chairman Benninghoff, but him and I have spoken about this a lot. We're trying to make sure that there's a comprehensive bill that handles all parts of transit, not just roads and bridges, not just public transit, but airports, everything across the line. So we really want to do something. We know there's a problem. The members on the committee, because transportation is not a partisan issue, and we've been blessed that we've had no partisan votes out of this committee, and we've had significant pieces of legislation signed by Governor Shapiro, and he supports all our efforts on moving this issue forward. That's why we have Secretary Carroll joining us at every step of the way to make sure that this is going to be addressed. I was amazed yesterday when you talked about importing labor. We're in Representative Tatak's district, and I don't want to state it because this is their neighborhood. I got Kerry on one side, I got Paul on the other. It's their neighborhood, and I don't want to take it. In Philadelphia, me and Bellman, we'll fight over time. Okay, we'll fight. We'll do that fighting down there when we start questioning SEPTA and all the locals there. But when we talked to some of the people and we visited sites yesterday and spoke to the community and the members that were driving over an hour to get to work, and they need these systems and these highway systems, and they talked how PennDOT and the maintenance of these roads and bridges were so good, and they were blessed, and they don't want to live in a town. I mean, to me, this is Penn State might seem like a town of money, but I live in that little city called Philadelphia, and but so I thank you for the work that you're doing at the chamber. You're doing a great job, and I'll let them question you. But I'm going to go to the transit. I'm going to go into transit because I don't know. This gentleman might seem to claim that he's the best, and I come from Philadelphia, and we have a professional sports teams and stuff. I wore my Phillies tie up there, and I didn't wear the blue like everybody else did, the Penn State thing. I didn't do all that neat stuff. But a question that came up when I was meeting with some of the members of the other chamber of the Senate, and some things they were asking us, and today's going to be the first day I'm going to ask this question. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put everybody on notice. I will be asking every transit agency that comes through here the same questions. You brought up in your testimony about local funding.
Yes.
Some of the local funding options you did. And the City of Philadelphia, SEPTA, has done the same type of thing. Like you did the apartment passes. The City of Philadelphia has offered the transit passes now to all city employees, which is a whole bunch, right? Just so they can start getting some local funding options into the system, because we need some local funding options. There's 4 proposals in front of the committee. We haven't addressed them. We're still talking about them and seeing which way is the way. So if you can talk about some of the local funding options that you do. And the big question here is, when was the last time you raised fees? What's it cost for someone to take a bus ride? And the last time you raised it, because we're getting a lot of stuff from the other chamber saying, hey, listen, have them raise all their fees. And there's coalition, because, I mean, even when we see someone, I'm in Center County, so let's talk, when you raise a fishing license or a hunting license, you see that license go down. And there's studies out there. Hopefully we'll have them shortly to be comparative and to show that if you raise rates, it doesn't always mean more money coming in. It means less ridership. It's not as cost effective as people. But if you can speak to that issue, I'd appreciate it. And they'll be my only questions. Then I'll give it to Kerry.
That's fine. So when did we raise fees last? It's a great question. And what do we do locally? I would say we raise fees actually every year. Our contract with Penn State is we have a 3-year contract, but we renegotiate our fees every year. So those fees are based on our costs. So the services we provide on the campus, I mentioned they're open door. If you're not familiar with that term, it means we don't charge a fare on those bus lines. Anybody, students or members of the public, can get on that bus and ride it for free. because of that, we have a financial arrangement with the university, and they subsidize basically our lost revenue. So every year we renegotiate those rates, and this year we got a 9% increase from Penn State. So it was some spirited conversations with the university because they're having their own financial challenges this year. So we got a 9% increase this year. Our apartment pass program is, again, probably our second largest source of revenue. Oh, the Penn State program also has an employee pass program. So in addition to the services we provide on the campus, all Penn State employees have passes that the university pays for, and those also, the price of that increased as well. For our apartment pass program, which is our biggest source of kind of independent revenue, that went up 10% this year. Last year it also went up 10%. And we've been able to raise those fees every year. So we've been steadily increasing our fees. Transit fares, as I mentioned, we actually haven't done a fare increase on our base fare. Our current base fare is $2.20 cash at the door to ride. We have not raised that fare since 2021, I believe, and we're looking at a fare increase in the coming year for that. But as I said, because so many people who use our service are using passes or riding through the Penn State arrangement, a fare increase won't generate very much revenue for us. But it is time to do that.
Thank you. Chairman Benninghoff.
I appreciate you opening the door to that. For some, the word fair is a four-letter word. But for some of our members who debate, on funding sources, whether to raise gas taxes or if they live in rural areas and they don't really see a transit system, they don't necessarily look at their system that's subsidized by the lottery as a transit system. It's difficult for them to see gas prices going up and up and up and to be able to tell the people we need to raise money for the fares. So I appreciate you saying, and I think it's worthy to restate which part of your testimony says, according to PennDOT, we transport more passengers per hour, collect more revenue per hour, and have the lowest operating cost per passenger in any transit system in the Commonwealth, and kudos to that. That I think some of our members would like to see that kind of efficiency overall. I was actually surprised in your answer when you said, well, basically they're going up each year, and some of those increases I think are significant, 6% here, 10% there. I also think it's important, at one point we had basically 3 transportation systems in Center County between Penn State's blue buses, the county system, and transit. I've always kind of debated in my head the efficiency of that, and are we having buses passing the county van systems and having a handful of people in each, and could we make that more efficient? So I would encourage any other suggestions you have for trying to consolidate that to come forth. When you were contracted with Penn State, you provide the majority of their ridership. Do they have any bus system up there anymore?
They have a couple of shuttles that they run and different times and different areas where we run a blue loop and a white loop and a red link, which are the main buses that loop through the campus, but they run a few supplemental shuttle services in addition to that. But we're the majority of it, for sure.
And I think the uniqueness to your system also is you're not 8 to 5 as the county system would be, van service provided by the lottery funding predominantly, and or the Penn State system. You're providing services later. So I think it's important to put that out there. A question actually was asked to me a while ago. Center County sees roughly 110,000 people coming into Center County every football weekend. Are there opportunities for any revenue generation for CATA? That's a lot of cars coming into town.
It is.
Is that something we've thought about? Is it something we should think about?
Well, we operate a football shuttle service. So there are a couple of private firms that operate bus services kind of at remote parking lots that bring people into the stadium area. And in addition to those privately operated services, CATA also operates a service. If you're familiar with the area, it's what we call Hills Plaza.
Yes.
You park in that area, and then we run continuous loops to the stadium for 2 hours before the game and 2 hours after the game. And that has been a revenue opportunity for us. We're actually looking at raising the fare for that service next year. We currently provide the base fare, and it's really the equivalent of taking 2 different buses to the stadium. So we're looking to possibly double that fare for next year. Well, we would at least like that to break even. We do that as a service to the community. It's kind of an all-hands effort, and we take thousands of people for every game. So that could be a revenue opportunity, but we also have to be mindful that we're not permitted to compete against the private sector. If they are operating shuttle services for fee and we are competing with them, we're prohibited under federal regulations from doing that.
Thank you, and I think that's important to take note to that. Lastly, if I may, Mr. Chairman, a question for Greg. Yeah. Thank you. You had mentioned air flights. I think oftentimes, especially in rural, people think that most flights are exporting people versus importing. And I think it's important, and I'm curious actually, are we importing products and goods as well as people, and do you see that kind of increasing? Because obviously if we're going to be bringing goods in, you're going to probably have to be transporting those goods from the airport as to whomever you're delivering that. And that puts another congestion on the road. I mean, we talk about that because we happen to be big in limestone around here, and so some of our limestone providers are also hauling this stuff by rail. Every rail car takes roughly 5 trucks off the road, so that's a good ratio. But in some ways, CAT's efficiency is kind of hindering them because of the liquid fuel dollars we're not getting by the riders that would normally drive a car. So I'm just curious about what impact you see, because I only see Seneca County continue to grow, that the air transport system is going to produce.
Well, I think there's not a tremendous amount of goods coming in through air. There is a FedEx facility at the airport, so there's an in and out on smaller FedEx planes coming in and out of the University Park Airport or the State College Regional Airport. UPS trucks their parcels to Harrisburg, flies them out of Harrisburg, so they do not have a facility. They fly out of State College. I think for the most part, as we see development opportunities in and around the airport, I think the opportunity for that to increase is there. I believe, and I'm not an expert on this, but in talking to the airport administration, there's some infrastructure needs that are needed at the airport. Length of the runway is one where if you're going to fly your bigger planes farther, you're going to have a longer air runway in order to fuel those planes adequately to get them off. And I imagine if you're shipping a larger plane with goods and services, you would need a longer runway to accommodate that and take off. So I think our opportunity, with passengers going in and out is there. I mean, if you think about the State College Regional Airport, and the name was just changed within the last year to signify we are really a regional airport. When you think about the smaller airports that have decreased service in Williamsport, DuBois, Altoona, and we're a catchment for them. But we also leak passengers to Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Baltimore. And is there an opportunity for us to catch those passengers and increase air service out of University Park or State College? And as we look at these things and we explore what is the opportunity to expand this, and you talk to the airlines, what limits us from bringing additional airlines or additional routes in and out? So they're looking at demand. They certainly look at profitability. COVID really impacted airports all across the country because of the pilot shortage and the focus on the hubs versus the regional locations. They also look at incentives. What are the community incentives that the community will put behind to bring that airline there? And that falls on the community to come up with what those incentives are. So I think that's an opportunity, Chairman Nielsen, is in the hearings tomorrow, are there opportunities for the state to participate in some matching fashion in these incentive programs, which becomes so important, whether and it's all about de-risking those airlines in the first couple years of service as they build up and really lay down a foundation for service in those areas. So do we as a community have the capacity to provide enough incentive to de-risk the airline that they're going to want to come here if they see the demand. I believe the demand is here. I think that's we can demonstrate that. And with our de-risking, hopefully they'll see the profitability to operating out of State College.
Lastly, if you were to look at your crystal ball on the idea of having a connector to the airport, do you have a time frame that if you could make it happen, don't say yesterday, and or a approximate investment by the Commonwealth towards that project?
Well, Tom was sitting here just a few minutes ago, and he'd probably be better. He and I have talked about the project, and spitballing both of those estimates, and I really hesitate to throw out any numbers.
I'll help you out here a little bit, okay? Because why you talked about lengthening the runway. My local airport lengthened the runway to allow bigger planes. In 2021, we did a ribbon cutting on that project to allow the larger planes to land there. That project was $500 million, $500 million, and the amount of jobs that came with it, the estimated jobs after they do the study and how many jobs, it was 1,200 jobs. So I mean, and so it is significant. Before you throw a number on it, that was in 2021. So that $500 million then is probably $1 billion today, because it's costly.
And I'm not trying to put you on a spot. I'm just
Right.
curious more from a time frame, because I don't see people purchasing online and the shipment of goods reducing
Yes.
and predominantly being transported by vehicles. A lot of it's going to come, and I mean, we have international commerce going on all the time in Center County. A lot of people don't realize that, as well as Pennsylvania, and that's a good thing. But I'm just curious if you have a time frame in your own mind that ideally, so that you don't feel overwhelmed or that we get kind of a stockpile because we can't move things, it would be great to have it done X, Y. And if you don't want to attach a price tag, that's fine, but even a percentage of what the participation by the Commonwealth, since the Secretary's here and it's getting close to Christmas, I thought we'd at least get our Christmas wish list together.
Well, from my perspective, I'd love to see that in place within 5 years. Whether that's doable or not, I don't know. But 5 years seems like a reasonable time frame. There's a lot of various pieces that we are going to be. This is a long-term play that we're thinking about for in and around the airport. It's going to take some perseverance for us to move forward. So, as far as cost care, I really have no expertise in that area. I imagine it's in that $100 million range to build it, because there's a huge bridge that needs to go across a very environmentally sensitive area, and it'll take some detailed engineering and some estimating and a lot smarter than me to figure that out.
I want you to know both of you were heard today, and we appreciate that.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. We're going to give you your next hometown boy, Representative Tatak.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be brief. Thank you both for being here. Focusing in on local issues, there's two other things that I hear a lot about that weren't mentioned today, and I wondered if you could just comment real quickly. One is the rural intercity bus system, which is largely operated by private operators, but is also a very important means of getting from one town to another, particularly in rural areas. Without a private vehicle, there is no way to get between a lot of these smaller communities. Given that consolidation, there's a lot of pressures on them too, with operating margins and capital expenditures and those kind of things. So given the fact that 16 counties we're drawing labor from, I'm curious about what the effect of further degradation of that system might mean economically and in terms of our development. And the second, trying to be brief here, passenger rail. There is no way to get into or out of this area. The closest you can get is Altoona or to Lewistown. There are rail systems. Just curious about, if we start looking at that as a means of not only bringing in passengers, but also even potentially commuters, along with the freight and all the other things. Those are just two things that are in sort of the back of my mind. I know you're doing some long-term planning and strategic planning. Love to hear your thoughts on the potential for those two modes.
Well, I'll offer. I'll start with the second one on rail. So there are, you're right. The two closest locations that passengers can pick up rail is Lewistown and Tyrone. Actually, you can get on in Tyrone, which is a little closer than Altoona, which is a great offering. You get to Pittsburgh or Philly from both of those locations. So yeah, if there was an opportunity for passenger rail to come into the center region, I think that would be fantastic for a number of different reasons of moving folks around. From a more industrial perspective, we have a fairly I wouldn't call it robust, but a good rail system within the county that is as Representative Benninghoff mentioned, moving limestone and other goods around and out to the larger transit system to get them outside of the area. So, we look at that and what are the opportunities to tie into that. There's a couple sites that I've looked at that have rail access. It's not in use right now, but boy, those become great opportunities for us to think about development. So, anything we can do to further work with that, and we work closely with like CEDACOG and their rail division, what they operate in the area, and how we can support that, and they can support us. With regards to your first question, in the counties surrounding us, and what is the transit opportunities come in, and I look forward to David's comments on this. But what I will say to that is, as we were going through our strategic planning, we included our regional partners from outside the county, because we really look at economic development. It's not just inside, it's really borderless, and we're looking beyond that, because if we're going to have solutions that drive our long-term strategies, we have to be working with our other communities. So I think there's an opportunity for us to think about that, continue to work with those other counties, and seek those opportunities. One thing that we didn't mention, we're bringing in labor, but the cost of housing and having affordable and attainable housing is a real issue, not just for us, but across the state of Pennsylvania, across the country. And a lot of those the problems to that solution lie in those surrounding communities that we have. So transportation, again, becomes one of the key components to attainable housing, good jobs that are available and that are out there, and how do we get the labor to do that? So I'll let David answer a little bit about what how that might happen.
Not sure I can provide that much, but the idea of linking the center region to other communities is always on our list. I mentioned during my testimony, that's one of the things we would like to do. If we had bus operators, if we had more bus operators and we had additional funds that we could experiment with, we know that there are folks in Altoona who would like to commute back and forth to State College. We previously had a commuter service to Phillipsburg. A lot of people who work at Penn State live in Phillipsburg. Those services are expensive to operate because they're long and they only operate a certain time of day. They're challenging to staff because it's kind of like school bus service. You're busy in the morning and then nothing midday. But those are areas that we would love to expand into. And we've talked about, with some local officials too, the concept of a link to Amtrak, to Lewistown, and even to, I think you can still get the train in Tyrone. So those would be the two closest places, possibly a linkage there. But again, it requires resources to do those kinds of things. And to add to the comments about the expense of housing in this area, you probably are tired of hearing me say it, but our driver shortage is just a critical problem. And that contributes to it, because the thriving economy in the State College Center region makes it expensive to live here. So most of our bus operators do not live in this region. They commute here. They commute here from Clearfield. They commute from Lewistown, from far away. So we're very aware of the fact that there are many people coming into this region and going back and forth, and we would love to be able to serve those folks if we had the resources to do that.
Thank you, Rep. Rep. McAndrews, make it short, please. We're running behind. Now, short means doesn't mean what talk as much as you want, like I do. Right?
Well, not all of us have that gift of gab. You have, Chairman. Needless to say, though, I did want to bring up a point in your testimony that was specific about Bellefonte and Benner Township. Obviously, we're seeing cuts that, well, not obviously, but I would like you to speak a little bit more about the cuts that you have had to do to those routes. Is it because you're not getting subsidized state funding? Is there a local issue? I would also like you to touch base a little bit on and explain something that I really didn't see in here, but we spoke about previously with microtransit. Yes. Explain that to some of us so we could get a better understanding of what you're doing with it. And specifically, have you been able to subsidize, or with the line adjustments that you're seeing within your system, has microtransit been helpful? Do you see it as something that is a permanent replacement? Would you like to reestablish the lines? Kind of really go into that a little bit more, please.
Sure. So first of all, for the services here in the kind of Bellefonte, Benner, and Spring Township area, CATA is a transit authority, so we are legally permitted to operate in the 5 municipalities around State College. If we operate outside of that, we have to do that at the invitation of another municipality and under contract. And the financial rules that we have to follow for those arrangements are different than what we do back home. And I think the simple explanation was that the services that we were providing out in this area were growing. It was kind of the curse of success. They were growing and getting more and more popular, much more use, yet the local contribution to those services was not increasing. So we were increasingly operating those services at a deficit. And to the point we were losing about $1 million a year on the services. So it got to the point where we simply had to talk to the local municipalities of, we can't continue to subsidize this. We've got to figure out a different arrangement. Spring Township elected to leave the system. They actually made that decision 2 years ago. We are still working with Bellefonte and Benner Township on the services that we have now. We don't want to end service. So we basically said, look, you tell us what you think you can afford, and we will come up with something so that we have some kind of service in this area. And we actually created in the course of about 7 months an entirely new mode of service that we never operated before. It's called the B-Line, and it's what we call a demand response. You call the day before, you reserve a trip. We group these trips together, and we operate in the mornings and in the afternoons because that's all we could afford, that's all they could pay for. But then that service links to our main network, and you can transfer free, and then you can travel anywhere in the main network. So that's what's in place now. It's actually started on July 1st. It's working quite well, and believe it or not, we actually have excess capacity. We thought we would be flooded with people looking for service because it's a significant cut from what we were doing before. But we do have available service. People that use it like it, and we hope we're going to be able to continue that into the future. And your second question about microtransit.
Yes, if you could explain what it is,
Sure.
so everybody's aware, and then
Sorry
go
about
into it a
that.
little bit.
So microtransit is this kind of new thing in the transit world. If you're familiar with kind of the shared ride program, it's you call ahead of time, you make your trip request, and then every night somebody who pulls the hair out of their head puts all those individual trip requests into routes. It's a very complex type of process. So this is the same sort of thing, but for the general public. In fact, for this service, you use a handheld app, the same thing you would use for like a Lyft or an Uber. And we provide these services in our areas that are at the edge of the service area where we've tried buses, but the buses mostly run empty. And the advantage of this service is instead of saying, look, we just can't provide any service to this area anymore because we can't run empty buses, we provide the microtransit instead. And as long as it's a low level of service, it's much less expensive than running an empty full-size transit coach. And in fact, Harris Township, one of our 5 townships, the only service we operate in Harris Township is microtransit because all the routes we've tried to run in that township frankly ran empty most of the time. We're now providing more service in Harris Township at a lower cost than we ever did before using fixed route services. So we think that it's a very good idea in Pennsylvania in particular, for some rural services where, running a bus line through some of these smaller communities, you're just never going to have that high ridership. So this is an idea that we think has some staying power, and we intend to increase it. And it's a way that we can frankly offer some level of service to almost everybody in our service area at a much lower cost.
Are you one of the first to do this? Have you seen other transportation systems within the state replicated?
There are a couple in the state that are doing it. We were one of the first to put it in place. It is a new type of service, and it's growing in popularity.
Thank you. And thank you, gentlemen, for coming and spending time with us here today. We appreciate it, and thanks for all you do. Our next group of testifiers, thank you for your patience, gentlemen, is Scott Rusky, Vice President of Construction, New Enterprise Stone and Lime Company, and Robert Latham, Executive Vice President, Associated Pennsylvania Constructors. Oh, good. I shut my own microphone off. How about that? Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming and joining us here today.
Chairman Nielsen and Chairman Benninghoff and the members of the committee, thanks for having us here today. Again, my name is Bob Latham. I'm Executive Vice President of Associated Pennsylvania Constructors. We're a statewide trade association representing highway and heavy construction companies across the state of Pennsylvania, from one side of the state to the other. Our members, what you'll hear from Mr. Rakuski here in a minute, are those firms that are doing work on PennDOT's roads and turnpike roads, as well as local roads and other projects as well. Before I turn it over to Scott, I want to mention two things. I want to thank the committee and thank the members of the General Assembly for two actions this year. First of all, most importantly, is addressing safety in highway work zones and making permanent the automated work zone speed enforcement program that we feel is so vital to safety for our workers and the motoring public. And anybody who came up here to through 322 today was able to come through a fully functional operating highway automated work zone speed enforcement program, well signed, well done, and I noticed that all of the cars going through there were slowing down, which is really the purpose of that legislation. It is not a revenue bill, it is a safety bill, and we appreciate the leadership of this committee and members of the General Assembly on that. Secondly, earlier this year you passed a electric vehicle highway user fee legislation, and that has something that was something that was a long time coming. I know that Secretary Carroll has that as near and dear to his heart. He was one of the leaders in that, and now we have a fair fee for owners of hybrid and electric vehicles. That's an issue that has kind of been batted around for quite some time, and now that legislation has been completed as well. So we thank you very much for that. And with that, I just want to, again, thank the committee for its leadership throughout the year. And now I'm going to turn it over to Scott Rakuski, who is President of Construction Operations for New Enterprise Stone and Lime Company. And I'll let you introduce the company, Scott, and talk a little bit about your firm.
Again, thanks everybody for allowing me the opportunity to be here today and kind of give our story. As Bob said, my name's Scott Rakuski. I am the president of construction for New Enterprise Stone and Lime. We are a fifth generation vertically integrated construction materials company that includes aggregates, HMA, and ready mix concrete, as well as heavy highway construction. Happen to be celebrating our 100th year of operation this year. Our main office is located in New Enterprise, PA, which is about halfway between Bedford and Altoona, just off I-99. But we are the 12th largest aggregate producer in the country, and ranked #1 in the state of Pennsylvania for aggregate production, as well as one of the leading, again, HMA, ready mix, and construction companies within the state. We employ over 2,100 individuals to support this operation through the state. Within that 2,100, over 600 of those work directly in the highway construction arm of the company. Those people everywhere from the laborers out in the field up through managing these projects. We work and supplied our materials to virtually every county in the state over the course of our existence. And right now, approximately 35 counties within the center, I'd say 3/4 of the state is where we mostly operate and either do construction projects or supply our materials to. Majority of our work is a low sealed bid for PennDOT, Turnpike, county, municipality. We put the bids together, we turn them in, they open them up. We are either doing the job or we're moving on to the next. Part of that, though, is but we also supply the materials not only to ourselves but to my competition and other contractors out there. The transportation funding is obviously critical to our company. 2,100 households that we support on a daily basis. They drive to and from work. They buy the goods and services in this state. They put their kids through college. They support their household expenses. And we want to keep these people inside the construction industry, and we want to grow. That's our opportunity. Our goal is to grow, and we need a consistent and steady funding arm to be able to do that. New Enterprise Stone and Lime, we have 50 locations across the state that supply the aggregates, the asphalt, and the concrete. Every one of these sites are major investments. It's not flip a switch, turn it on and work. These operations take years to build and grow, and money and investment to maintain and move forward. Material availability, again, that's the key of our company. It's in the ground all over the state, no question about it. It takes money, effort, and time to get it out and get it available to use in the roads, the bridges, the airports, the rail lines that they run on. It takes time and effort, and we need to evaluate our long-term goals with this and the resources that it takes, the economic effects of either having or not having a funding source in place to be able to have that material ready to put to market to use for infrastructure. The next option that goes with this is the equipment investments. We buy equipment and we run millions of dollars of equipment every day. It's a shorter term investment, but those equipment pieces run for years. We need to know if we're going to put $1 million into a paving machine, is the work going to be out there for us to do that, or put an excavator in a quarry, or put a plant up to crush stone or make asphalt. We have to have that funding in place, and we understand it's a tough sell. We understand that people talk about paying the gas tax, and everything costs more. But when a road or bridge is closed down, it's if it's not your problem, you see it on the news. It's not that good of it. It's an issue, but it's not affecting you. When it affects your route, it becomes your problem, and it's a real problem. We just ran into it just north of Harrisburg. Debbie came through and wiped out one of the main north-south routes out of Harrisburg. Small SR road, but we got a call on a Friday night, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, we had crews on site and needed to get it open. It was on the news every day. The other option was going up over a mountain, which was not a truck route, but now trucks had to go there. So it was miles of a detour to work in effect to get that road open and done. So those are the things that people see. It becomes they don't want to talk about the daily commute to and from. There's a cost with that. We understand that, and it has to be paid. I don't have the answers. That's not my job here, but it's to kind of express to you the what we need to be able to do this on a daily basis. It was brought up in another one of these meetings. Funding. Our dollars aren't going as far. We understand that, and we live it every day. I looked at a job 10 years ago that we did. Our work mostly is prevailing wage. Our wages are set by the Department of Labor for the jobs that we bid, 10 years ago, a job versus a job that's going on this year in a similar area, the wage determination went up about 28%. So employees, coworkers are making workers in the field about 28% more than they were a decade ago. You know, the internal wages, the cost to support getting the stone out of the ground, making the asphalt, internal companies probably gone up more than that. When you look at you know, the production cost for asphalt, you know, the labor rate of putting it down is a small piece. It's the production and getting it to the site is really the key. Transportation costs, they've doubled. Our asphalt's delivered on triaxle trucks across the road. We talk about detours and postings. We can't take a loaded asphalt truck across the bridge as posted. So we may have to run detours. But you know, the truck itself, the truck to buy, to put the asphalt in the last 10 years has increased about 154% for us to buy. We run hundreds of trucks a day. The paver to put it down has more than doubled in price in a decade. And we have multiple pavers in our company that we're running out there every day. The excavators that are working in the quarries or working on the highway projects, that's gone up about 20%. So when you look at the cost of projects, you know, we know our groceries have gone up. All our daily costs in life have gone up. Construction is no different. You know, the paving project out there is about 10 to 15% in labor. So labor's gone up 28%. Our materials gone up more. Transportation's gone up more. So you can see how why the cost of those projects have increased. A full reconstruction project, a major highway like the I-80-99 project is going to go on. Those projects, you know, huge millions of dollars. 25% of those projects are labor, 25% are material, 25% are equipment, and 25% are subcontract work when we're talking about general contract work in round figures. So you can see the you know, the split of it. Costs have increased across the board, and the only way to keep up with that is funding has to increase for these. Again, that we can't get to where we want to go without the roads and the bridges. Can't get to the rail lines. Can't get to the airports. Can't get to the transits, the buses and the lines without having roads and bridges. And you know, again, I look at every day 2,100 households, which are thousands of people that this industry supports, has supported me and the people around me, and we're just want to get that message out there that we're a critical part of this state's economy. A lot of people in this state and my company live and die by that, and you know, we're asking for your help. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, and congratulations. 100 years. It's a huge accomplishment. My family last year celebrated our 100 year, 4 generations in the Electricians Union, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. We have 4 generations. I have 2 of my 5 sons in the business. Construction has fed our family since 1923. So it's when people talk about generational thing, it's a family business for people like you and me.
Absolutely.
You know, not so much being a state rep, but being a construction worker. I enjoy it. It's something I miss every day dearly. It's not that sexy job. We work in places that are unfit for humans. They're not allowed on those jobs and stuff like that. And to have predictability in the business, I mean, 2,100, that's a lot of people. That's families. That's not 2,100 people. That's families.
Correct.
So average of 5. I mean, we're talking 10,000 people that your company feeds over the year, and having predictability in transit funding is a big deal. I'd like to put it in a little bit of perspective so the everyday person can understand.
Sure.
And because they think, you know, listen, they're building a road. They don't know. They're worried about a pothole. We don't fill potholes. You're not here to fill potholes. You're building a road. What's a mile of road cost? Just an average. I mean, just if you could throw a number at 1 mile of road. And we have so many. It's just a mile, because that's like driving from here to the supermarket. That mile that people drive on, they don't understand the cost. The lifetime they pay in gas doesn't pay for that road. Do you have just a guesstimate?
It does not. Bob may have a better average of that. For example, we're doing a project in Harrisburg right now. I'll say it's, for everybody that's familiar, it's from almost Southbridge Cameron Street to 29th Street, working on it currently. $154 million. That project is only maybe less than 2 miles in length. It's going to go from 4 to 6 lanes. There's some overhead bridges, things like that. If you're talking about, strictly, a mill and overlay, you're close to $1 million a mile. I mean,
that's what I want people to understand. It's that cost. It's
yes.
materials, it's manpower, and as you said, the manpower is only a little piece of it.
That is correct.
When you get in the overall scheme of things. And before I give it to Kerry Benninghoff, don't forget, I don't want to leave this out, Bob. The 1833, that design build, we still have that hanging in the Senate. And why I got you in the hot seat, I might as well put you on it, because that design build allows projects like this and allows the secretary to get these projects out much faster, because roads and bridges and transportation funding, it's local, it's federal, it's state, it's all of us together. And if we have an opportunity to take advantage of some of these federal dollars and pull down federal dollars, if we can get these projects up and start it immediately instead of having to wait for design. But you left that was because I know the committee, we talked about that. We had a lot of hearings again across the state on that legislation. I hope we can get it across.
I appreciate you bringing that up.
You can describe what it is, Bob, for the public so they know what it is.
Primarily, construction contracts are procured through what we call the low bid system. They're designed by an engineering firm. The plans are developed, the specifications are developed. It's put out for bids. Companies like New Enterprise will put in what we call a hard bid, and the low responsible bidder is the one that receives the project. There is a procurement method that is appropriate for some contracts, some projects that are complex, that could use some private sector ingenuity and compress the time frame so that you combine the design and the construction contract into one. It can in many instances particularly save time and save money, and particularly getting the job done faster. And so obviously we endorsed the legislation that was introduced and passed by the House. It is now in the Senate Transportation Committee. But I did want to mention that because at a future hearing, one of these hearings, we're going to present not just that, a further discussion about that, but also some other ideas that we have as an association on ways that we can deliver projects more efficiently, things that can be done, compressing design and construction, looking at some of the design procurement that might be able to be done more efficiently, particularly even on smaller projects, design build on small signal projects, other types of things. Also permitting processes, and some of these things may require legislation. Other things, other these ideas, we are going to be working with the department. We do a lot of liaison work with our partners at PennDOT we're all trying to work together to provide projects in a more efficient, cost-effective manner. So we don't want to just have to come back to you and say, oh, we need more money. We're going to come back with ideas that say, here are ways that we can all work together to save money. And I'm glad you brought it up because I think 1833 is paramount as well.
Thank you for that. And it's just like the transit system today, how they testified today, that we're always looking at different ways to do more with less and more efficiency. Chairman Benninghoff, maybe?
Thank you. I'll keep my comments relatively brief. First of all, Bob, thank you for the work that your organization does, Associated Pennsylvania Contractors, and really you're kind of their advocate to keep us informed with the newest, latest, greatest needs, equipment, methodology, and that's helpful as committee members turn over. Scott, good to see you again. As you know, we were down in your neighborhood a couple months ago. It's nice to hear your success in 100 years is very, very worthy. I basically have one question. As I listen to all that you are able to do, I think the average person thinks anybody with a dump truck and a bulldozer can go out and build a road. And I think that's very misleading. One, because implementing an engineer's drawings is one thing, but also just to have the equipment, the manpower, and the fact that you're able to do on-site crushing. People don't realize that's an awful lot of vehicles we're keeping off the road that aren't transporting rocks from one place to the next. And that's not something we've always done. Those crushers were not always around, but it's something in the last 20, 30 years is used more repetitively and successfully. My question would be, if money wasn't an issue, these hearings oftentimes just kind of are always about money, and we could have a goal of getting all posted bridges, all closed bridges, and every piece of roadway that we want to put down, including my good friend Greg Scott's connector over to the airport. Do we have enough companies big enough in order to do that kind of work?
So the short answer is yes. There are a number and enough qualified companies in this state and surrounding to do the work. You obviously can't do everything right away because I do a road here, detour, lane restriction, I'm not going to do the adjacent. So there are ways around. As I said, we want to grow. We want people in this industry. And if the funding is there and people know that, as I said, this is a good business. It's not a glamorous business to be in, but a lot of people have raised their families in it. And there are people that want to be in. I'm lucky enough, my dad was in the business. My son is in the business too. So I have extended family across from that were in PennDOT on the construction side as well. So if the funding is there, people will come to this business and people will stay and work and enjoy the work. We're one of the largest ones in the state, but there are others out there as large as us, and there are smaller ones that want to grow and can invest. So yes, the short answer is we are here and we are ready to do the work.
I want to make a couple quick comments on that very, very briefly. Depending on the increase and the size, if you go from 0 to what all of the needs are quantified, obviously that would take some time and some stretch. But with a reasonable increase in funding available to allow us to do more, the industry is certainly able to do it. But I do also want to point out, like Scott just said, there are a number of companies that are a little bit smaller that are very much interested in participating in this market, particularly on the minority business side. And our association is working with PennDOT and the governor's office on a series of efforts that will help some of those companies get into our market, get past some of the pre-qualification financial needs, equipment needs, expertise in order to be what we call pre-qualified to do more work. We have a series of outreach meetings that we're doing in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. We have what we call a DBE Academy that we're about to stand up in Western Pennsylvania that we think will be helpful in getting more and more opportunities for smaller companies to get into our market and to be able to grow and compete. So we're very excited about those programs as well.
The one note that I just want to add along with that question is, are there enough people out there? One of the issues, doesn't really matter what side you stand on, but a lot of qualified individuals in this business. A couple of the issues that are out there that the state is pushing is the project labor agreements and responsible contract ordinances. Number of union contractors out there. I hire them every day to do work for us. Actually probably more non-union contractors. So you want the workforce out there to do it. That's an issue we have to just watch how far it goes and in what areas. But
if I think, may, Mr. Chairman. Oh, I don't know about that. No, it's secondary to that. In some of these projects, like precast structures, do we also use rail to transport any of those types of things, as well as large trucks?
So the problem with a lot of that is rail trucking is, for example, we use precast in almost all of our jobs. At one point, we had a precast beam company. transporting them on a rail, you get a curve, a 120, 150 foot beam doesn't curve. So as it goes around, it may not work. Box culverts are what we use in a number of instances. Depends on the size. We cut them down small enough so they've got to be able to go underneath underpasses, go around corners, those kind of things. So, and then they also have to be delivered to the project site. And the one thing with construction is we go where the work is. That may not always be by a rail yard or so we have to transport and move. So it's not a very widely used opportunity for that.
Thank you. And I just I want those who may not be here to understand that, you know, it's not just a matter of paving over the ground, putting down some asphalt. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be planned for. And yes, it takes time to do these. We all want smooth roads. We all want less congestion. We all want to get where we want to go as fast as we can, but we don't want the inconvenience. If you guys could just build roads on our days off and at nighttime when everyone is sleeping, the constituents would be much happier. So I just think it's important. There's a lot involved with that, and I'm glad to hear that we have a good workforce to do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I got to say, I get that question in email a lot. So, well, why are you fixing that road? Why are you closing that between 9 and 3? Da, da, da. You know, and I try and tell people, listen, we want to work during the day too, construction workers. We don't want to work night shift overnight all the time. So there's all things. But thank you, gentlemen, for coming. I appreciate your testimony. Clean a couple of things up. We'd like to thank the Central Pennsylvania Institute of Science and Technology for having us here today. A reminder to everybody, there is a historic cattle bus outside for pictures if anyone wants to do it. And our next meeting will take place tomorrow in Harrisburg at 10 a.m. Please check the committee websites for details. And this meeting is now adjourned.